It is your boy, Mr. Valentine, in the house, and that was a little loud. Here with the one and only Ms. Blackwell. Sounds like a 007 agent kind of thing.
Perhaps. I might be James Bond.
Yeah? All right. Back to the serious question. Are lobsters insects? To break the ice.
Well, they have exoskeletons, but I don't actually know if they're an insect or not.
Are you getting really technical in the house, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah?
What else would I be besides technical?
Cool. So have you ever been married? What's your longest relationship?
Oh, I have to answer these types of questions.
Yeah, just to break it up a little bit. You know how I'm saying? That's how I roll.
Have you ever been married?
Like a fruit roll-up.
So you're a foot long.
You could say that. Have I ever been married? No, I have not been married. Don't really think about it.
No, I got proposed to in 3rd grade, but that's as close as I've gotten.
Wow, it sounds a little disturbing.
He was fine. He was a great friend.
Oh, he was your age?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought this
Wow,
was
you
like
took such a dirty route with that.
who proposes in kindergarten?
3rd grade. 3rd graders do.
3rd graders propose.
To 3rd graders, yeah. Why
Damn, they're
not?
simps. All right, important question.
Yeah.
What is it that you used to believe between men and women that now you've changed your mind on? What perspective made you go like, I was naive?
I was naive?
Mm-hmm. You were going to say something, just say it.
I was going to say, actually, men do know how to clean a counter, and my mom lied to me that they couldn't.
Your mom says they can't clean?
She said she taught my dad how to clean a counter.
A counter? Like
Specifically how to hold the towel on the counter.
Interesting. Anything else? Anything that might be a little bit more revealing.
Yeah, I knew that's.
Other than if guys can clean.
Well, I knew that's what you were asking, but I decided to give another answer. First.
Okay, yeah, break the ice.
I can't think of one.
You can't think of one.
No, I'm sure there is.
Okay, then we'll get back to that question. Do you think sex is viewed the same for men and women or different?
Different.
And why?
Because men and women can be different about it.
Yeah, how so? Do you feel not that you're okay with it, but do you understand why a certain amount of people view a promiscuous man different versus a woman?
Yes, I think I do understand why.
So it makes sense to you, or you're like 100% like, this doesn't make sense, it's just unfair?
I'm not saying I don't think it's unfair, but I think that I understand why people view it differently like they do.
You comprehend.
I understand it, yeah. I might not necessarily agree with it, but I understand where it comes from.
Nice. And are you a promiscuous woman?
No.
All right, I'll believe her on that.
Mm-hmm.
Believe in that. Do you
Thank
think
you.
that a girl, when they look for a man, looks for her equal, for someone she can dominate, or someone superior?
Well, I think it depends on the woman.
You think, generally speaking, if your life depended on it?
If my life depended on
Yeah.
it, I'm not sure I'd want someone to dominate me because then I might just die.
Well, I mean, you ever play tennis and got dominated?
No.
Did you die?
No, I suck at tennis.
So you got dominated a lot.
No, but I was just better anyways.
You were just better?
I did pretty good for my first try.
Okay, but on a general basis, what do you feel?
Do I think women look for an equal in a partner?
Mm-hmm.
I think that, yes, they look for an equal. But
And when I mean look for, I don't mean like they tell their friends that. I mean like when they go to a party or something, that's the one I want. Do you feel like, oh yeah, she's going after her equal? Like, do you feel that? Or you're like, yeah, no, that dude's like up there.
No, normally it's below, but.
Below?
Yeah.
Really? Most of your friends?
Not most of them. No. Just people I've seen in like party settings. I'm like, well, I think you both could do better.
Both?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
I don't know. I feel like someone who is like, say a girl who's pretty insecure and then will like date down a guy who she will specifically pick a guy who's less on her level so that she can feel, I don't know, like the saying is date the ugly ones so they don't cheat on you.
So you feel like the girls that you're really close with date guys who someone could consider on a 1 to 10 basis inferior to them?
Not the girls I'm close with. The girls I'm close with.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The ones you personally
equals.
know.
Look for an equal.
They look for equal, right?
Yeah.
Same amount of money, same height, everything.
Well, maybe not height, but I just think that because
in order for it to be equal, right?
Okay, we're going equal. Okay, if
when
we're
you
going equal,
for the UFC, when they pick the equal, you can't put a guy who's like 5'3" against a 6'4"
Okay,
That's not equal.
Mean by equal.
Equal in every sense.
Equal in every sense?
Yeah, when you say you look for an equal, you look for an equal in every sense.
Okay, then no.
Because then if you're looking for someone who's partially equal, then they're not equal.
Okay. All right, fine.
Okay. So, repeat. Do you feel most girls you know go after someone who has, let's be a little bit more polite, has traits that might be above theirs, or someone exactly the same?
I think it depends on the trait, but I think if you're going for height.
Overall, I'm talking about overall.
Overall, I don't think I can answer overall because I don't think that they would evenly fall into categories where it would make one
close
greater
enough,
than the
right?
other.
Like not necessarily like that, but like.
I think if you're thinking about things
like
that might be
tectonic plates
superior, I would say maybe girls look for people who are taller for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think a girl goes into seeing someone taller than her as necessarily being superior, even though they have a superior category to them in height.
Yeah, but I also feel like most girls just don't want to use that term in general.
Well, I think that the superior just means in this sense like better than almost.
Yeah.
Is how people see it, and I don't think someone being taller necessarily makes them better than the other person, so maybe that's why I don't think that's a superior
I
category.
absolutely think so. So I think we'll agree to disagree. I think it's one of those things where like they want to paint it nice and pretty. You know, it's just me being nice. But in reality, they're looking for someone.
I don't think it's being nice. I think plenty of people admit, girls, that they want someone taller than them.
Yeah, no, but to say you want someone taller is to say you want someone superior than you.
Maybe superior in a category of height, but I don't think superior in like.
Okay, but still superior.
Okay. So if what you're trying to
like
get
if I
is I believe that
if
all
I said
women go for superior
if I was playing golf and I had to pick a partner,
how to play golf. Why are you picking
and
golf?
I had to pick a partner to play golf, even though golf is not really a tag team sport.
No, it is not.
I picked Tiger Woods. I would openly admit that I'm looking to pick a superior partner because I suck at golf.
Okay.
Therefore, I want someone who can compensate for that.
But then you're saying that women will pick a superior guy because they suck at being in the dating scene? Is that what that necessarily means? And that the men are better at being in the dating scene?
No, I think girls are better in the dating scene.
Okay, yeah, in that regard, yes. But,
absolutely.
But like to the golf thing, you're saying
you play golf?
You're bad. No, I'm terrible at golf.
Okay, continue.
I've never played my entire life.
Really?
I play mini golf.
You play mini golf? That's a sport.
Yeah, I know it's
for kids. You going?
Well, maybe then I'm a child.
Anyways.
You made me lose my train of thought.
But you get the point, right? Like you can nitpick anything, in general. But you get the point.
Yeah, but sometimes I don't think the overarching point is the most important thing, though.
Because it doesn't feel right.
No, don't bring up the feelings thing again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I talk about my feelings a lot here.
Nobody's going to believe that.
All right. So the last girl that I interviewed said that for a relationship to start out and work, the best strategy for a man is to give the girl the power, meaning you basically make her make all the choices. She is the one who's in control of whether or not this becomes something. Most of the time, it's always going to be like that, but there is something I think guys could do that kind of makes them have the control. But do you agree that is the best bet for guys, to just give the girl, as she says, the power?
No.
And that makes her want the guy more?
No, I don't think so.
And why?
Because I don't think, well, for one,
don't think
I would hate to decide where I want to eat every day. Like, that's not something I'd want the power in.
So you want a man to help you decide what to eat?
Equally. Not
Equally.
Equally.
So like the same amount of calories?
No. Although I feel like I could keep up. But equally decide where we go.
Yep. So that's it?
Yeah, what were you going to say? What do you think a guy can do?
What I think a guy could do?
Yeah. To like not have the woman have all the power. I think that's what you said before.
All right. So we talked about this before. Like one of the biggest difference between a guy who's clingy and a guy who's not clingy is the guy who's clingy is only talking to her. The guy who's not clingy is talking to other girls. There's obviously, like you were kind of getting at earlier, you started nitpicking and being like, well, technically superior and all this. You can say the same thing about this. Is like maybe his grandfather just died and he's depressed. That's why he's not clingy. Or maybe he's becoming a scientist and that's why he's not clingy, right? But here we talk about, if you had to make a left or a right, what are your better chances of survival? I'll say right. It's not always going to be right. Sometimes it's going to be left, right? So in this case, it is that the guy who's not clingy most of the time is not clingy because he has other options. Girls don't like that. Girls want the guy who's not clingy but also doesn't have options. So my advice is, if you are in that mode of dating, like I want to date a girl, I want to be in a relationship, you should do it in a position where you have options and not where you have a option.
Or maybe just don't be as clingy. Like maybe instead of having options, you have options, I don't know, of being your own individual person, so you do stuff outside of necessarily being in a relationship. And that keeps you from being as clingy. Maybe not options in girls, but maybe it's options in things to do.
Right, but see, when it comes to dating, girls can usually just kick back, relax, grab a six-pack, and stop. You know what I'm saying? But most of the time, they can just relax. They can just make the guy do everything. Most of the time, not every time. I don't think I've met
a single girl that relaxes when she's in the talking stage with the guy.
Yeah, but that's because she's really into him. What are usually her complaints? He's not texting me. He's this and that. Why hasn't he replied? And that's why they get all anxious. And no one wants to admit it, but that anxiety that a girl gets when talking to a guy is what essentially makes her want him more and more and more. If she doesn't have the anxiety where it's like, I know I can get this guy whenever I want, most of the time, they don't care. And I'm talking at the very beginning. I'm not talking about like right before potentially dating or dating. Because once you get in that phase, it's a whole different game.
Well, I think also in general, if you were like making a new friend with someone and that new friend texted you all the time or called you all the time when you first met them, like I still think that if you went on like a first friend date with someone.
Not friend date.
No, but just say you're going out with like a new friend, like a coworker. You just met this person, you're going out to dinner for the first time. Mm-hmm. If that person then is in your idea of like clingy to that other friend, you're still going to be off put by it. I think it might just be how humans enter into relationships and maybe just not necessarily dating relationships.
Or maybe it's like a low-key thing from like self-consciously a girl just knows if this guy's not being clingy. It might be because he has other options, and if he has other options, he must be highly desirable, and if he's highly desirable, he might be a guy worth it for me to date.
Maybe. Or she thinks, oh, he has other options, I'm not even gonna bother.
You know how many times I've seen that happen? I have heard that a lot. Like girls will say that. But you know how many times I actually seen them do that? It's like very, very low.
Well, with us back to the point where I think we know different people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, of course we do.
I've seen it happen.
I know my mom.
Times.
You know your mom.
Okay, yeah.
I know my dad. You know your dad. But like if you had a son right now and he was just so depressed because he cannot get any girls, you would really just tell him that?
Tell him what?
Like my strategy wouldn't work? Or you think that like maybe your strategy would be better?
No, I think that in general that is a good strategy when you're entering into new relationships, not to like withhold talking to someone. Like, if you're sitting there and being like, okay, I'm going to wait exactly 2 days to respond, like, I mean, that doesn't make sense.
See, this is the thing. I feel like girls just are not in the realm of guys. It is most of the time, and you see this in like wildlife. If you ever watch like Animal Planet, it's the bird is just on the branch, the female, and then the male has to like grab all these leaves, run around, jump around. The guy has way more interest because when it comes to having, for example, like sex, the guy is more in a rush to do that than the girl because the girl feels like the opportunity for her to have sex is always around. The guy does not. So he feels like this is like the door's open. I better get in before they close it. So the guy feels usually more motivated to put way more effort at the beginning than a girl does, right? Most of the time, not all the time. Mm-hmm. If you set yourself up in a really good position physically and financially, you will get to the point where you're basically dating as a woman, where you're the one never putting effort and all the girls are putting effort to you, like Dan Bilzerian or the Playboy guy.
I also don't know who that is.
Hugh Hefner?
Okay, I've heard the name.
Yeah, like when you
I live under a rock, remember?
Yeah, she's her name is Miss Blackwell, first name Patrick Starr.
Really nice. Yeah, let them all Google that.
Live under a rock. But it's a different world. Like, just most girls want to like give advice to guys the same way they think they should give them advice to themselves, because that's their reality. You know what I'm saying? You know, like a girl can make that same argument about like going over to a guy's house and saying, "Oh, what if I watched episode 109 of Criminal Minds, so this might happen to me," kind of thing. You know, I'm sure before you brought that up, right? So
I don't know, maybe.
So basically, like the way a guy operates, it sounds so unflattering to women because they don't like they don't ever, in my opinion, I feel like whenever there's a struggle that's associated specifically with men, it's like, yeah, like I don't know. I feel like there's a decent amount of people who want to believe like it's smooth sailing for men in every possible section, and for dating, it's a lot of like messy stuff. Most girls have, again, most, right? Like some girls like girls. So there's clearly exceptions to the rule all the time, but we're not going by the exception. Most girls have other guys, even if they have no interest in them, but they still have them on their Snapchat. And the guys are still hitting them up, being friends or whatever. So they're getting all this attention. That doesn't happen with guys. Most guys, if they let a girl like just cut them off, they're not going to continue like trying most of the time. Most guys don't have like a bunch of girls that's just randomly hitting them up for no apparent reason. Like if you were to put, for example, your Snapchat and your bio on Instagram versus a man does it, you're probably going to get so much random Snapchat ads compared to the guy, because that's just how the market is for women. So when you are the prize, and at least that's how it's being treated, and the guy has to go win it, he's always going to be in a position of like, he feels like oh man, like I haven't talked to her all day. Maybe if I don't talk to her tonight, it's going to lose interest. Like a lot of guys think like that, right? Again, when you make yourself better and put yourself in a better physical and financial situation, you won't have to think like that anymore. But for the average guy, that's how they think. So their best strategy is to never make a girl at the beginning feel like she's the only one. You really don't agree with that? You think the guy should just freaking go for it head first?
If this is I don't think go for it head first, but I don't think making anybody feel like they're not the only one is a good idea.
It doesn't sound nice.
If you're going into
it doesn't feel nice, but it works. I can tell you from personal experience, when I was growing up, that whenever I talk to the same girl twice, meaning different time periods, not that far apart, the periods where I treated her as an option and not as the option, it went much better. Much better.
Maybe she was just in a different place in her life.
No.
Maybe.
The coincidence, I don't believe it.
Okay.
The coincidence just doesn't make sense. I can tell you in like locker room talk, all my friends say the same exact thing. If you put all your energy to one from the very beginning, there's a good chance. Hence, a good chance. There could be a girl, and it's happened to every guy at least once, that's like the minute she saw him, she was in love with him, and no matter what he does, it's not gonna ruin her high interest of them. That's what we call high interest. So I have 3 different things: low interest, medium interest, and high interest. Low interest is usually when a girl doesn't find a guy attractive, but due to all his merits, he makes her attractive. You see that like in a lot of old movies where the girl's like, he's not even cute, and then by the end of the movie, they're dating, right? Then low interest is like you look and you're like, oh, he's cute, and then you keep walking. Like it doesn't like stick in your mind. You just like, oh, you just acknowledge he was cute. And then high interest, it's like, oh my God, I want to talk to him like right off the bat. Like you're already feeling a certain way every time you see him, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? That's high interest. When you have high interest, I agree. It doesn't matter if you make your option feel like an option or whatever. It doesn't matter. When it's medium interest or low interest, that's when a guy has to play his cards right, or else he'll lose the game. And for a lot of guys, they want to win.
Okay.
Does that make a little bit more sense to you?
I think it's made sense to me. I don't think and don't agree that it would feel good or be good to do that, to make someone feel like they're not the only one.
I mean, in a perfect world, we wouldn't like it. Does why would it matter if like a guy like hits you up all the time? Like he cares. But it turns girls off for some weird reason. Girls want that mystery. Like, I don't know if I have them. I don't know if I'll lose them, but I want them.
The mystery, I'll admit, is fun. I've talked to a lot of people who like the idea of like a mystery.
But you can't have both. That's what I'm saying. You can't have a guy who's super mysterious unless he's a creep. You can't have a guy who's super mysterious and not have other options.
But I think you can be mysterious without having other options.
No.
Yeah, mysterious in your life, in the things that you like to do and where you like to spend your time, but not necessarily that other person thinks you're going out all the time and seeing other people. Like that's something.
Maybe you're not seeing other people. Maybe you're literally just like, okay, Ms. Blackwell just said K, which is a really dry response, and you can do 2 things: the more simp guy or the guy who's chasing the girl, which somehow let me create this very clever message to get the conversation going. The guy who's not clingy, who just leave you on red, is going to be the guy who, well, Sally just hit me up, so I'll just keep talking to her for the night. Doesn't mean he's going out. Doesn't mean he's being promiscuous. Doesn't mean anything other than he has so many options that he doesn't find the need to carry conversations if the girl herself is making it dry or the girl's not putting any effort to keep the conversation going. So that's what happens. But if a guy doesn't have that...
But I'm not saying the goal shouldn't be to find yourself more options so that you can appear more mysterious to another girl.
No, the goal is to have options. So when you do date a girl, you have a clear mind. And you're not dating her for the wrong reasons. And you're also not coming off as clingy. Because it will turn it off.
I don't think that having options in case you meet a girl that you want to date so that you appear mysterious, it makes sense. Like just
well, I'm not saying
maybe you have
I'm not
options,
saying you date with options. I'm saying you talk to her with options. So I go to the cafe, I get a girl's number. I don't just like, okay, let me delete everyone off my phone and start talking to her. And I don't mean delete physically, I mean mentally. You mentally delete everyone off my phone and now I'm just talking to her.
Well, no, I don't think anybody should do that.
Right.
Man or woman.
Right, but here's the thing. The way girls talk to girls all day, guys don't do that. I don't talk to my guy every day. I don't do what you might do where you just randomly call your friend be like, hey, what's going on? Oh,
but you could.
Oh, I'm in New York. Yeah. What are you doing in New York?
But you could if you wanted to.
You could, but most men don't do that.
Why not?
So you don't have the constant messages that like a girl's doing.
Why don't guys do that?
Because there's no need.
Well, that's like,
there's
why?
No need.
You don't want to talk to your friends?
You talk to, how was your day? It was good, bro. All right. Cool.
You don't want to just like share a funny video that you saw or just
sometimes
say,
like you send memes, but I'm saying at the level that a girl does, it's like far below.
Is that just a fundamental lack in men having like talkative relationships with their friends then?
No.
Sometimes
less is more.
Well, yes, less is more.
And less words you use, more power. Not in that case. And in that case, less means more clingy. It's just, you can disagree with it, but if you look at all the guys who are really clingy and all the guys who are really not clingy, you're going to find one variable that's always common. The guy who's not clingy has a bunch of girls hitting him up. The guy who's very clingy has no girls hitting him up. You can say, world sucks, I hate how that works, fine. You could say you don't feel nice about it, but you could just... But like what it is, it's just what it is. There's a lot of things about reality that I don't like. But
if it's also then acknowledged that when guys don't act, maybe not clingy, but maybe act more mysterious because they have options and a girl knows about it, I know that a couple of them will tend to lose interest.
Absolutely. It's like when you give advice to a guy and you're like, hey, if you're really confident and you say the right things and you go up to the girl, you'll get her number. It's like, some girls don't like that confidence. They want the guy who's shy. You're not always gonna hit 100%, but the strategy is which one gives you the higher percentage. So do you go for every 10 girls you come out 8 out of 10, or for every 10 girls you come 1 out of 10? Right. So you go for guys. It's the numbers. You can see this if you ever been on a guy's Tinder. For every like 10 matches, he gets maybe like 6 snaps. For every 6 snaps, he gets maybe like 3 phone numbers. For every 3 phone numbers, he gets maybe 2 to set up a date. And he's lucky if both of them actually come through to the date if they don't flake, because girls have so many options that flaking doesn't have the weight that it used to. Because so what if they lose this guy? They have so many other options. Mm-hmm. So when girls have a lot of options, even if they don't want it, and a guy approaches that same girl with no options, he's almost always going to come off clingy. And I'll give this to girls, is girls can sense things about guys. They can just tell if other girls want them or other girls don't want them. They can just tell if he has real confidence or if he's just faking it.
We can tell a lot more too. We're very observant.
I'm sure. But my point is, the girls sense that. It's the same analogy with the bar. Like a girl goes to the bar, sees 2 guys. One guy's in the corner quiet. The other guy's dancing. Every girl wants him. Most girls, not all, most girls are going to find the guy who has all the girls wanting to dance with him more attractive than the guy sitting in the corner by himself.
I don't think it's necessary.
Even if they 100% know that guy's not a serial killer or a creep.
I'm not going to go to the serial killer thing. I see you try to block that out. That's not where I was going. I was saying, I don't think it's because he has a bunch of girls around him. I think it's simply just because he is being out and being in the open.
Okay, then let me use that analogy again. 2 different guys. One guy, every girl wants to talk to you. You can tell all these girls are just drooling all over him. And then another guy's just hanging out with his buddies in the corner. Most girls are still going to find that guy with all the girls, and everyone wants to dance with him, more attracted than the other guy. However, when a guy walks in the club and he sees a girl dancing with a bunch of dudes, but then sees a girl by herself or a girl with her friends just chilling, it's not going to matter. Like, the attraction does not go up or down. It's the same thing for him.
I don't think the girls would find the guy with all the people drooling around him more attractive than the guy in the same animated, fun out there.
That's what they say, but why do they go for that one most of the time?
I don't think in practice it actually goes. I think maybe because if there's other girls around, it feels more comfortable to go and talk to a guy because feel like there's girls there. But versus if he's talking with his guy friends. But I don't think it's because the girls are maybe flirting with him or wanting him, that they feel more apt to go and talk to him.
You see this in products, right?
I have no
Guys are more willing to buy products with no name. Girls are usually prefer products with the brand name.
I have never heard
like
about
purses
this.
And stuff like that.
But
like they want the logo.
Really use purses, but they should.
Most, right? The reason for this is girls want things that most people want most of the time. Guys, not most of the time.
Because there's pressure from around them to want it.
There's pressure for guys too. There's pressure for everyone.
I don't.
In the air, there's pressure. In a balloon, there's pressure. My point is that like you can't really think that guy who's going to be around girls is not going to be that desirable. Most girls find guys who have a lot of girls wanting them. Doesn't mean that they want a guy who sleeps with all those girls. Doesn't mean that she actually wants that guy to reciprocate and like flirt back. But her knowing that guy is very desired makes him more attractive.
Maybe it's because he seems easier.
Why would he seem easier?
Because if he already has all those girls interested in him, maybe he.
Most girls who put themselves out there know that sex for them is extremely easy to obtain. Like extremely easy. Like walk to Walgreens to get some butter easily. So what about a guy is easy? There's nothing like guys search for girls who look easy because they know how hard it is to obtain that. Like even guys like on YouTube with big subscribers say that it's a numbers game. For 100 girls you've tried, you're only going to get like 40% of that who actually are interested. And these are guys who are high value and attracted and all that. That's just what happened because girls can reject guys simply because they just weren't in the mood. It wasn't even that they weren't attracted to you that day. It's just they just weren't in the mood.
Well, guys can also do that.
But it's so much rare.
That's
so much rare. A guy, like for example, a guy's more willing, like if a girl says, oh, come over, like Tinder, right? Girl says, come over. Guys are more willing to, even after a long day, super tired. Again, they haven't had sex before. More willing to go. A girl's more willing not to go or flake. Oh, I had a long day at work. I'm going to get a rain check. That's because most guys will know that the opportunity doesn't come often. I better take it tonight. Most of the time. Girls get the opportunity so often they can just lay back.
Well, that small thing reminds me. My mom has this saying that men fall faster and women fall harder, which I feel like makes a lot of sense in that. If he's much more willing to, before they've even met, just go when she's not.
What do you mean go when she's not?
Like if he's much more willing, if the guy is much more willing to go to the Tinder hookup he's never met with, than the girl who you're saying is much more easy to flake, then maybe it goes with that. That men just fall faster and women tend to just fall harder over time.
I think girls just like playing hard to get.
Well, maybe.
So, conclusion, you say girls do not find guys who are highly wanted by other girls more attractive.
I wouldn't think so, no.
On a general basis.
No.
All right, let us know if you guys think that's cap. I think that's the biggest cap. I'm going to buy you the biggest blue hat on this planet.
I already own a blue hat.
There you go. She's already been capping before the podcast. All right, the next one. What do you think about mainstream social standards that girls set for guys versus mainstream social standards that guys set for girls? Because I explained this, for example, on apps, it's totally fine for girls to explicitly say all the shallow requirements they want, but it's not totally okay for guys.
Why do I think that it's that way? Well, if you're thinking, for example, you're saying it's okay for a girl to say she wants a guy of a certain height, but then it's not okay for a guy to say he wants a girl of a certain weight. Is that the type of thing that you're going for?
So on dating apps, you're more likely to get banned when a guy says his explicit things that he wants in a girl, not using any profanity, of course, versus when a girl says her explicit requirements.
Well, for one, I think
before you answer, I'm fine with both of them having their extreme, explicit, shallow requirements. I think everyone should just.
Well, everybody can.
You're gonna hurt people's feelings, but it is what it is.
The thing is that everybody can do it.
You can, but one side gets banned and one doesn't.
Okay, which is weird, but
mm-hmm.
I think that it's
difficult for example,
to conflate height and weight. If you were doing height, I know where you're going with this. But if you're doing,
they always say that. Well, it's different. It's
Okay, here's the thing. I know why it's not accepted, and it's why it's not okay, because in general, women's weight is something that like the media
affects their depression.
Just like the media and the world around them often also really push on them to like be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that has become a big thing and a big part of like diet culture and all of that. And it's a changeable factor. So it's not something all the time necessarily that like is still like your weight, your height for the most part, you're going to be that height the rest of your life once you grow up. But your weight, you might not. It might change. It might fluctuate. So it seems more of a superficial thing in the media because of how it's portrayed women's bodies and women's weight over time. But I don't necessarily think that it would be bad if everybody just said what they wanted to say and nobody got banned for saying whatever they wanted to.
But you are aware it's saying say harsh thing. I'm not saying you think it's okay to say harsh things, but say harsh.
I definitely don't.
Yeah, right. But say harsh things about something that you can never change no matter what. Okay, but say harsh things about something that you could potentially change. That's.
No, I'm not saying it's an okay thing to do for either side.
Right, but you were given some background on why one is actually would be considered bad to talk about because media and everything.
Well, I can say the same thing about men's height.
Right. But like, so they would both be bad. Like,
I think they're both bad. But I think they're both maybe not necessarily needed or nice things that you can say, but it doesn't mean you can't say them. Like you could, if it's something that really matters to you, then
right. Just because you started the sentence making it seem like there's more background to the girl side than there is towards the guy side, which I don't think so.
Well, that's because there might be more knowledge on the background of the girl's side and maybe less knowledge on the background of the thing for guys, simply because people don't tend to pay attention to stuff that affects guys.
Well, it's because guys just don't complain about it. We just figure it out and deal with it.
Okay.
Girls tend to be more vocal about a lot of things, like some of like the body positivity stuff. That was more directed for women, not for men, because men never worried about that. And guys grew up for the most part watching cartoons where guys had muscle on muscle on muscle. Most of the action figures that they sell for boys is, you know how they say like Barbies is impossible to have.
Well, so are the action figures.
Some Barbies actually are attainable to have that body. I've met personally girls with Barbie-like bodies. I've never met a guy who I didn't know was juiced who had even close to like a Superman action figure or Dragon Ball Z action figure.
There's a documentary that I watched on this in one of my women's and gender studies classes where we actually we spent the whole time talking about men's like portrayal of their bodies in the media and like why nobody looks into it, why nobody studies it. And there's just not been a bunch of research done into that.
Well, honestly, I don't think there is a need.
Why not?
See, the biggest issue is and some guys don't explain themselves well. Whenever a guy counters the girl's whatever narrative they're trying to push, the girl automatically assumes, oh, this guy wants people to start paying attention to certain things. It's like, no, we don't care. Like, right, when I say, for example, oh, a girl, I could say a girl, I want a slim girl who's not fat, but like also believe that girls should have their shallow requirements. Girls some girls hear like, oh, you want girls to stop having this shallow requirement. It's like, no, I'm totally okay with girls having their shallow requirement. I tell people all the time, the stupidest thing you could do is either convince a girl to forget that shallow requirement. I think those are one of those things where the only way she'll ever change, or even guys too, is to go through an experience that really humbles them to the point where like that's the last thing they could care about in a person when looking to date. But in my experience, if a girl ignores a requirement that's like really like in her brain, there's a good chance she's just gonna cheat on the guy, or it's gonna be a toxic relationship. Because when you, the people don't want to admit this, but when you date someone who you constantly feel like you could do better, you're going to easily snap on them, hold grudges, everything. Versus when you date someone you think is the best you can do, you're so much more relaxed and like chill during the whole relationship and stuff like that. So, it happens.
So so the whole shallow requirements thing. So you're thinking a shallow requirement tends to be like most of the time a physical thing, something that you're gonna maybe notice when you first meet someone, like someone's height, someone's weight, how they physically look might be considered a shallow requirement because it doesn't go.
Yeah, it's always
deeper.
gonna be.
And if you think about like dating apps, the whole point is those first things that you see someone,
right? But
it's like, are you attracted to them? And so I do think that it should be okay for people to have their shallow requirements on there, whether they're man, woman, non-binary.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's gonna offend some people, but you should, because if you go on Bumble, it can explicitly have you set the woman's shallow requirement, but you cannot. It's like a bubble, right? For weight. And the rebuttal to that's like, why can't we put exact weight? And then what a girl once told me is, well, because weight doesn't really show how you look physically. And I think that's stupid. That's dumb.
Well, I mean, it doesn't, but.
Oh, but you've never met.
It doesn't change the weight, but the physical
you've never
thing
met.
Might be different.
Yes, but first of all, you've never met guys who are the same exact height on paper, but in person one felt always taller than the other, or you always assume another dude was taller than the other, but then when you actually like stood them side by side, you're like, oh no, they're actually the same. Because it also does affect, like, for example, if a guy's really fat, the guy who's more slim is gonna look taller than the fat guy. The guy who dresses very saggy is gonna look not as tall as the guy who dresses a little bit more fit, like fitted clothes. So my point is, I can make that same argument about that. Like, well, that doesn't really show how you look, but it is.
Okay, then both should be allowed in.
Right? What? All right. So I'm glad you can at least agree with me on that.
We've always agreed on that one.
All right. Now, what do you think is the biggest issue that guys face when it comes to dating and just life right now? Like, what do you think?
Well, this is tough because I'm not a guy, so I can't really speak.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What do you think? Not what do you know.
So from a girl's perspective, what do I think the most difficult thing is for a guy entering the dating scene?
Yes.
That's a very tough question.
I think you know.
What is it that they don't want girls to have options? I really am stumped.
I mean, first of all, girls don't need options. They have options since forever.
Girls do have options.
Always have options. There's always a plan.
They might not necessarily be aware of it, but yes, they do.
All right. Now, get a little bit more fun. Question. Mm-hmm. Would you remarry if someone you're married with dies? If you become a widow, would you remarry and why? I'll give you 1 minute to think about it.
1 minute to think about it? Okay.
I would not remarry because I truly believe that despite how society is now making marriage seem like it's all about just love or all this stupid stuff. First of all, I would only get married through the church. I would not do it through the state. Who cares about the state? As long as I and the person I'm with knows we're married, I don't care if the whole world knows we're married. Like, it's just stupid. But nonetheless, if I chose that route with somebody, is because I really, really think they're the one. And I don't mean Disney Plus, Disney Channel, one-itis kind of crap, or not that.
This is not like a Prince Charming.
No. I mean, like, we will literally stick together. We have very strong core values, and I would not want, assuming I wanted kids, I would not want anyone else raising my kids other than this woman. If she passes away, and we already established that, I think that anything after that is just going to be a downgrade, and that's not to be offensive to any other girl out there. But to me, you're just downgrading at that point, because, if you found the one, why would you, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you were looking for $100 bill and you knew it was in a landfill and there's 2 areas of the landfill, left and right, you finally found it on the right side, it's like you lose that $100 bill and there was only one there, but now you're going to look on the left side. I just feel like you're wasting your time. You're never going to find that, and at the end of the day, you're also hurting the person you're dating, because you're really just dating them for company and sex. It's really just company and sex. But what's your take?
Okay. I have a few takes. I have a few responses to what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
First off, is I'm not entirely sure that I would ever want to get married, simply because if you found your partner, I oftentimes don't feel why you guys, between the two of you, the two of you can't just say you're together and maybe not have to involve anybody else, church or state. Mm-hmm. I think that just having a commitment to each other, maybe a commitment to each other's ceremony or something.
Well, I do think that marriage does seem a little bit more dumb now that a lot of the religious aspect has been pulled out of it, and now it just seems like anyone can just, marriage is just, it's like anything, and then if you don't want it, as long as you keep your receipt, you can return it and it's no problem, at least for the girl. So I do feel like a lot of the magic of it has been taken away. But you can continue, assuming you got married.
Assuming I chose to marry someone, mm-hmm. and I believed that they were the one that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, have kids with, all the things that you said.
And a bus just hits them one day, and you don't have them anymore.
Okay.
Like a really big bus.
Okay, you're making the death more gruesome than necessary.
No,
they died, that's already what's sad.
Yeah, but... All right, keep going.
I am not sure if I would remarry. I think that there's different ones for different times in your life, and I wouldn't want my partner, if I died, to never ever look for someone again.
So let me rephrase that. Not necessarily remarry, but repartner. Because, I get what someone's going to say is okay, I'm not going to marry someone else, but you're still going to date them, live together, and you're basically a couple.
Yeah.
Another marriage couple.
I would do that.
You would do that?
Yeah.
So, my thing is, why would you... And then, obviously, to your point, you don't even know you want to be married. But let's just assume you did. Mm-hmm. Why would you marry somebody who you already feel you can replace?
But when you marry them, I don't feel like you can replace them.
So when I would marry someone, it's because I feel like I can't replace them, and because of that, I want to make sure that they're mine, mm-hmm. and I'm theirs. But if self-consciously, not okay, can I replace them? You're really thinking this out. This is all self-conscious, just like a lot of our sex drive mm-hmm. is self-conscious. You don't see a beautiful girl walk by and be like, okay, now I need to be horny. It just happens, right? It's the same thing with that. It just happens.
Okay. I don't know. I just don't. I think that nobody goes into marriage for the most part thinking they're going to divorce. Again, there probably are people who do that, but nobody goes into a marriage with the idea and the assumption that, this person's going to die, right? And then I'm not going to get to spend the rest of my life with them. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you went into every single situation which you might marry someone with the idea that they might die one day, they're going to die and you're not, before you can, you'll never be with anybody else, I don't think that you'd maybe ever find anybody. or it would be harder because you'd be consistently afraid that you would lose them one day.
You mean like if you think you found the one, you would consistently feel like scared that you're gonna lose them?
Yeah. Like if you're going into it thinking like, okay, if they die, like they're gonna die and I'm never gonna like be with anybody else. But you're not. You're going into it with the idea that you're gonna spend the rest of your life with them.
Right.
So like, if they died, you don't like that's an experience like you don't even know what it would do to you, so you don't know how you would come out of it the other side.
Right, but that's like, for me that would be like, I know your spouse and your children are different, but that's like, you know, my son dies, and so I'm like, let's go adopt one to replace him because I just want to raise a kid. I don't know, it feels weird to me. Like my son was the only son and nothing's ever even coming close. And that's not saying you're trying to replace them. It can be an add-on. But like...
That's the thing. I don't think it's a replacement. I don't think if you were to repartner with someone or remarry that you're replacing that person who passed away.
I mean, kind of. You know, before they used to sleep on that side of the bed, now you have another person. You're
replacing them in like a physical sense. Like the body is different. Like it's a different person.
Are you a spiritual person?
Apparently, it seems to be that I am.
Do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
No, but maybe I am.
Do you feel like we're just cells?
Yes, I do.
And we just react to chemicals and that's it? Mm-hmm. There's no... So you don't believe in love?
I believe in love, yes.
How can you believe in love? There's no science behind love.
Well, I believe love is like a chemistry and electricity.
Now
and
people confuse sex and company with love.
Yes, they do.
But that doesn't mean it is love.
Yes, I know. I don't consider myself, I thought you were saying spiritual in terms of afterlife.
Maybe, but just in general.
I don't know. Maybe.
Because if you really think like the most dry, cut out version of a point of view in life that we're just cells and we react, then I can see that. But I also wouldn't understand why you would want to date somebody. Right? Again, if you're not with someone because of fear of loneliness, so company or sex, why would you want to just talk to one person? Like that does not make sense unless you really think this person, there's something special about them.
Okay,
So
I wouldn't call feeling that way about someone being spiritual though.
It is.
It's emotions though.
Emotions can be spiritual.
That's true.
So when you see somebody and they just like, if somebody you really like says good morning versus another person who it's whatever says good morning, you feel some type of spiritual way, right?
Because you have a connection to them.
Right. And that connection is usually spiritual. Right?
Sure.
No?
I don't think emotional and spiritual are the same thing, but
No, I agree. Like you can be spiritual and emotionless, but I'm saying like that specific part, I definitely think that like it's more to it than just arousal.
Oh yes, definitely.
But if you think that's not the case, why even bother dating? Like as a guy, why not just fuck every girl you see and that's it? Like what's the point? Like I feel like for a guy to really settle down, it's because he honestly thinks this is the best girl for everything, the best girl to spend the rest of his life with company, great mother, all that stuff. If you feel that this is just something you can replace, like from a logical standpoint, why would you want to like commit to something?
I don't think anybody wants to replace them. I think when most
obviously you don't.
Widowed,
I hope you don't want them to die.
They don't expect themselves to ever be able to find someone else to be with because that was their person.
Why would you want to be with someone else? Wouldn't you rather live the rest of your life hoping that there is something more?
But I think that the human heart has such a capacity for like loving and accepting people and being with people that if you might not go into it thinking you're going to fall for someone else, you might say I never will, but then you might just because your heart grows or you have more space for that.
So if you love if you know you can love more than one person at the same time.
That's not at the same time though.
No, because if that person dies and you date somebody else, you love them. And someone asks you like, do you still love your past husband? I think you're gonna still say yes. So you can love at the same time. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. So then what's the point? Like, what is the point?
Then how do you love both your children at the same time? Why not if you had one child?
Well, I honestly think parents love their child slightly different. I don't think there's equality in the family.
There's always a favorite.
Not necessarily a favorite, but there is someone, for example, that you can tolerate more, or someone you would prefer for different scenarios. And that's, I don't think favorite, but sometimes preference. But it's just different. Like, your son's not going to get mad at you because you went to go play with someone else's kid. But if you...
The dogs might, though.
The dogs, of course, if they sniff you. But if you went off to go, I don't know, play with, another guy, your man will not be too happy about that.
No, but
so
I'm not like, when he's there.
You having feelings for other guys or being able to.
But I think that love, it's still the same, but it changes. Like, that love you would feel for someone when they die.
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like that person, that means I think people who are capable of doing that are dating for the company and sex only. I'm not saying...
Don't agree with that.
I'm not saying you're not having, like, fun or going to museums and learning together. But I don't think it's because you really feel an emotion connection to them. I think it's more of a company and sex. The sex is good. It's super fun. And I get along really well with them. There's nothing special about it. And I'm not saying there has to be something special about it. I'm not saying I believe in Disney Channel. I'm saying is, if that's the case, why even bother? It doesn't make sense to me that you would really get married to a person you think you can just replace. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I think, like, if you really think this person can be replaced, just stay dating. I think marriage is one of those things where, like, let's say you lock yourself into, I'm not religious, but you two are now a couple under God. Therefore, you guys will always live together as a couple forever. Mm-hmm. And if you take that out, then I don't see the point. So I wouldn't. Like, I don't care. And it doesn't matter if my drive is, like, through the roof. I wouldn't set. Now, another thing is having casual sex. That's different. I'm talking more about, like, you literally find someone, and whether you want to admit it or not, but you're replacing them. I really don't. There's a void. There's a void, and in order to fill it, you need someone else to fill it in.
Well, I don't think it fills that void.
What void?
I think it adds another void.
Adds another void.
Like, I think it adds on. I don't think it's like an emptying and an addition of something. I think it's just an addition.
I think it's replacing.
Agree to disagree.
No, it's replacing.
No, it's not.
You really don't think so?
No.
All right, so final sentence. You would not remarry because you think you should just be able to continue to find somebody if your partner dies.
I would not remarry. Is that what you're saying?
Or re-partner.
No, I'm not saying I wouldn't not do that.
So you would?
If I found someone, maybe, but I really don't know.
Oh, nobody knows. I mean, nobody knows. This is why.
I'm not going to say it's not possible.
So do you think there's more of a chance or not?
There's probably a chance that I would.
Mm-hmm. There's a good chance?
Maybe.
She's like, I hope my future husband doesn't see this.
I'm not getting married, remember?
Oh, that's what they all say nowadays. So what do you think for you is, at least in your eyes or in your friend's eyes, the biggest struggle when it comes to girls to dating?
For girls?
Mm-hmm. This is really hard. No, that's fine. That's fine.
The biggest struggle?
The biggest struggle. So
I think that there's a lot of pressure put on girls, especially around the college age, that they need to go out and they need to have and they need to sleep with a bunch of guys and they need to.
I think a lot of girls do that. Do you really think it's a pressure?
No, I don't think it's like a pressure like, oh my God, you have to do this. But I think that a lot of girls do that because it's what people do, and if you want to do it, you should do it and you should have fun. Right, I'm not going to tell anybody they shouldn't go around and have a lot of sex if they want to and have fun.
She's saying not to, guys. Be a prude, just like her, right?
I am not a prude. But I think that a lot of girls may not always see the value in not doing that. Like there's a pressure yourselves to go out or not pressure. Like just go out and have fun, but there's also a lot of value in finding a partner and finding someone that you want to spend time with. Mm-hmm. And I think that narrative is not often as talked about.
I see.
Amongst girls.
What is something that you wish to see more of?
Just in general?
Mm-hmm.
Sunsets?
No. I mean, in general, in terms of like between guys and girls.
Between guys and girls? Well, specifically between guys and girls.
And not necessarily between, but also like even just something you would want to see more in guys and something you want to see more in girls. It doesn't necessarily mean something you want to see happen between guys and girls.
I just think that they should all talk to each other more. Just in general.
You don't think we talk?
No, I think that we do, but I think that
it's a lot of texts.
There's a lot that
streaks. I'm just saying.
There's a lot that girls talk about that they say like they'd like to know about guys, or that they'd like to know about just like guys and girls together, but then they never ask the guy's opinion, like what do you see, or guys for the most part don't be like asking a bunch of girls like what do you think about this. Mm-hmm. Like, there's not that in like a normal setting in which that would happen, like guys and girls being friends. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like that would probably make it easier for them to maybe cross over and have more communication in relationships.
Guys and friends, you said?
I think more guys and more girls should be friends. Yes.
You think that's more possible?
I do think it's possible, yes.
Do you think you can be friends when there's a catch? Like when the guy's your friend because he thinks one day you're going to slip and actually want to have sex? Do you really feel like that's... Like if you met
his mindset, then no.
But you'll never know, right? Most guys who are like in the quote-unquote friend zone, whatever... Mm-hmm. The girl never really knows. Like she suspects, but she never knows. And like the guy's nice and gives them attention, so most girls just play along with it.
Well, then I think they should.
Like I think girls and a guy and a girl can be 100% genuine friends, not casual friends, not acquaintances, but like actual friends. If they're actually 100% like not attracted to each other. Like, even if he was super horny, he wouldn't try if she was down. And even if she was super horny, she wouldn't try if he was down. Like, that not attractive. Because there's no tension at all.
I think that you could find them attractive.
Like, for example...
You could find them attractive, but maybe you're not necessarily attracted to them.
No, because, like... When we talk about attraction, we're talking about like if you were at your lowest point, meaning the horniest you've ever been and this guy's right there, would you sleep with him? You probably would if you find them somewhat attractive. He has to not be attracted. You have to not be attracted to him at all for you to more likely not even try with him, no matter how horny you were. I think it's the same analogy would be like, is the guy who never really hit you up to hang out with now hits you up to hang out because you won the lottery really your friend? Or like are you just gonna be like, well, he's just hitting me up now, so like this is like a genuine connection? Or do you feel like, well, this isn't a real friendship because there's a catch behind it? So when a guy and a girl are friends, there's usually a catch behind it. A lot of times it's more the guy's hoping for something to happen. Like, a lot of guys won't admit it because they seem like such chumps for admitting it, but... Like, do you ever feel like there's a guy who really wants to be your friend, but if you were just to ask them right now, hey, want to come over and have sex? They would be like, yeah, sure, where?
Probably.
So it's not like the most, like, you're never going to compare that friendship to like a friendship you have with somebody else.
No, but I think that it's slightly different.
Mm-hmm. Well, to answer my own question, I would say that I hope people really realize what actually matters in life in terms of dating versus what I commonly see now. And it's a lot of people just getting into relationships because of sex, like especially with girls. Oh my God, I really want to date this guy because I really want to fuck him. That's like the reason and the only reason. Like, I'm sure you've known girls who were highly attracted to a guy and the guy did something that you would be like, whatever, and she's like, oh my God, it was the sweetest thing ever, and you're like, what? Like, that wasn't even that sweet. But reality, she's really just into him because of attractiveness.
Or maybe she thought it was really sweet.
And a lot of no.
Yes.
No. Yeah. I just said you will look at that situation and be like, that there was nothing sweet about that. Like,
she might have seen it that way. When you're smitten with someone, you kind of,
right. That's what I'm saying. Your whole basis is founded on just how attracted you are to the person, and there's like no more to it. And then 2, I feel like people need to stop getting into relationships based on company. Because I think more people want company than they do relationships. And then I think people who get into relationships seeking, again, a lot of these things are self-conscious. No one really wants to admit it or thinks they have it. But I think a lot of relationships that start off from company, people end up cheating, people end up hurting each other. Or it's one of those like toxic things where like you're fighting a lot because of that. It doesn't make sense why couples end up fighting so much who their bases and values were exactly the same. I really think couples who had all that aligned didn't really have that. Now, values are not interest. You cannot like you can have the exact same values, the same direction in life, the goals, the bases, not like the same foods, not like the same type of music, not like the same type of festivals, not like the same type of cities, weathers, whatever. You can have all that different, but if you have your base and values the same, you will have a great relationship. Because that's another thing too. People think, like, I see girls all the time like dating guys because they like the same music, and I'm like, that's stupid. Why is that even like, I never really cared if a girl liked the same music that I did. Like,
well, because people care about different things, and I also think those
don't work out.
There's different types of relationships for different things that you need at points in your life, and maybe it's not meant to last, but maybe it's meant to last for that little bit of time that you're in it.
Do you date just for?
I date if I'm interested in someone and I care about them and I want to spend time with them.
But do you ever have an end goal?
I've not yet had an end goal in dating, no.
No?
No.
All right. Is there anything you want to say before we go to the party? And party all night?
The party is
where her girls, Stacy, Macy, Ella, and Bella.
I'm more excited to see Ella and Bella.
Yeah? So is there one last thing you want to say? Now putting all your ego, putting all the tension away, something meaningful for the crowd.
I'm glad I wore my sweater.
You're glad you wore your sweater?
It's cold.
And you find that meaningful?
Yeah, I do.
Well, there it is. Mrs. Blackwell giving her opinion with her bachelor background on these kind of topics. And
Not
it is
quite these topics,
your boy, Mr. Valentine, signing out. And we're going to a party downtown with our lady friends and imaginary male friends and all that kind of stuff. Good night. You actually talked a lot.
Thank you. Did it stop?
No, it didn't.